Well, hey, you guys, how are you doing? Hello. So tonight we are going to be talking about on this episode of The Fuse, right? I'm Garlinda Price from the capital to the coast, your realtor for life. And so we're going to be talking about, regardless of what market you're in, the difference between purchasing a pre-sale home and building a custom built home, because so many questions arise as we're working with buyers and or if we're representing the builder, and everyone gets so frustrated with each other, right? Because the buyer doesn't understand in the pre-sale transaction, why can't I pick anything? Why can't I move the walls? Why can't I customize it? Why can't I make it like I want it? And the builder is like, hey, take it or leave it. This is it. This is all you get, and this is what we're going to do, and call it a day. And they get so frustrated sometimes with the buyers, right? And it just makes for like a wonky start to the transaction. And so I wanted to shed some light on the subject of what is the difference between a pre-sale when you're purchasing a home and when you're custom building a home, because there's a huge difference. So again, I'm Garlinda Price. I'm the broker owner of Fusion Properties LLC here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We represent transactions, buyers and sellers, investors and commercial properties, including land, from Raleigh, North Carolina, all the way down to the tip of the coast of North Carolina where it touches South Carolina. We can help you with all things real estate related, to include any area in between. We have an amazing broker referral network. We can refer you to the top brokers in the industry. Here in North Carolina, across the country, we even have an international certification. So if you're looking to purchase a property overseas or a property in another country, over in the islands, let us know. I'm a certified international property specialist. I have an amazing network internationally. I can connect you there as well. But tonight we're talking about a pre-sale versus a custom built home. And so what a pre-sale is when you're riding around on the weekend and you're going canvassing in the different neighborhoods. You're riding around after church, you're riding around on a Saturday afternoon after the yard sale, or you're just out and about and you happen to see a sign that says new homes, $240,000, new homes, $300,000, new homes from the 140s, new homes from the 500,000. Those are what we call a pre-sale or even a spec home, right? Because that means that home has already been designed, the floor plan has already been created, and they're planning on building anywhere from 10 to 30 to 100 to 300 of these homes, right? And so when you hear a pre-sale, that means that the home potentially is not yet built, right? It has its foundation, or it has its lot. It has a slab or will have a slab, and everything about that home has already been decided. Everything has already been purchased in volume. Everything has already been purchased by the builder in bulk. And so everything is already predestined for that home. The permits have already been pulled. The engineer has already signed off on the design. They've already signed off on the plan. The county, the city, whoever they're dealing with, depending on where it is, has already said, yes, on that home, on lot 1, the residential plan can be built. This is the setback, meaning where the property is going to sit on the lot, and this is it. This is how it's going to be. And so what happens is now you're riding around and you see this amazing home. You fall in love with the lot. You love the floor plan. You like the downstairs, but you don't love the upstairs. Or you love the upstairs and you don't like the downstairs. And you're like, then you meet with your agent or you meet with myself and you're like, okay, I want to make these changes. And then we have to say, well, no, I'm sorry, unfortunately, you can't do that. And you're like, why not? If I'm paying all this money, why can't I make the changes to the home? And what I want to share with you is because it's already been pre-planned. A pre-sale is something that has already been predetermined. It's already been pre-designed. It's already been pre-built, although it's not yet on that foundation yet. And so there's very little that you can change about. There's nothing you can change about a pre-sale structurally. In very small, minute, I would say less than 1% cases, will a builder let you make any changes to anything related to structure. And why is that? Because a structural engineer or an engineer certification has to be received during the time that floor plan is designed. So in order for anything structurally to change, they'd have to take that floor plan back to the engineer, which is not cheap, right? Just to have a residential designer design a floor plan could start at $900 and go all the way up into the thousands, right? And just an engineer certification alone could be $1,500 just for them to sign off on it and say, yeah, I'm good with that, right? Then it has to go back to the city or the county where it was planned out. So it's not an easy process. That's why builders are like, no, this is it. This is what it's going to be. And I want to share with you just from I don't have a dog in the fight, right? So I can exclusively represent buyers. I have exclusively represented sellers. I have been a dual agent, which means I represent the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. It just depends on what the case may be. So I'm just sharing with you from a real estate broker's perspective that the builders in a lot of these subdivisions, they do not make a lot of money on pre-sale homes. They make it in volume. And so when you're thinking a lot of times as the buyer, like, oh, they're making a killing, they're really not. Most of the time they're making anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 per home. That is not a lot of money when you think about they bear all the risk, right? Because the land developer comes in, I'm talking about pre-sales versus custom built. The land developer comes in and he puts in what we call, I can't even think of it, right? Puts in what we call, honey, what am I trying to say? The development cost, right? Infrastructure. I got it. So the land developer comes in to put in the infrastructure. And what that is that's the curb, the gutters where the water runs down, the drains, the sidewalks, the street lights. The developer does all of that, and then he says, okay, while I'm building out the infrastructure, I'm going to sell a certain number of lots to this builder and a certain number of lots to that builder. And so then each builder comes in and now they're buying up the lots. Well, those lots are going to cost them, depending on where you are in the country, a lot can go in a new construction subdivision anywhere from $35,000 to $180,000 to $250,000. So they already have to come in, and let's say the builder wants to purchase 10 lots. They want to take what we call take down. They want to commit to building 10 homes at a minimum, and they're going to buy 10 of those lots. Well, that's $350,000 that they're expending out before they even build a home. So now they're going to come in, lumber costs have gone up, building costs have gone up, and so now they still want to build a great quality product. So they have to build a home on each of those lots that will net them anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 each, and not lose their shirt or lose their money, right? And so when you come into the process of now you're looking at the home and you're interested in the home, for every item that you want them to change, every change order, or every item that you want them to add, like a new fence or blinds or gutters, right? Or just anything you can think of that's an add-on, and you wonder why the builder says no, because if you're already profiting only $10,000 to $30,000, and a fence could cost you at a minimum $3,500, right? So now you take your $10,000 and now I got to buy a fence for $3,500. You take your $20,000 and now I have to buy a fence, a mailbox, garage door remotes, refrigerator allowance of $1,000, you know, and then costs begin to eat away at the profit. So that's why also there's not a lot of movement in price as it relates to a pre-sale. We're talking about a pre-sale versus a custom built home. So when you want to come into purchasing a pre-sale new construction home and you wonder, why is there no negotiating on price? Why can't they give me a deal? Why can't they take money off? Because there are a lot of expenses involved in building a new construction home. The profit margins are slim. In addition to that, let's say that the builder decides to give you a discount on the home and the house is $200,000. I'm just going to say $200,000, right? And you say, well, I want a discount of $5,000. So now that home is going from $200,000 to $195,000. So profit that they would have netted has gone down $5,000. In addition to that, your pre-sale or your sale of $195,000 sets the value for every other home in that neighborhood that is the same square feet being built at the same time. And so it's actually driving down the value of the new construction subdivision, because an appraiser is going to come in and say, well, you sold to Sally Joe for $195,000. So that means now that John and Barbara come along, same floor plan, same everything, you're going to have to sell it to them for $195,000 as well. So now the builder's losing $5,000 with Mark and Sarah, $5,000 with John and Debbie, $5,000 with Susan and Alan. And so you see the point that I'm making. And so that's why most of the time new construction sells at 100%. And there are not a lot of changes that can be made because everything is bought in bulk, it's purchased in volume to cut down on costs, and everything is made. All the decisions are made in advance. Sometimes on a pre-sale, these are the things you get to choose. Sometimes if you're coming in right in the beginning, you get to choose your siding colors and whether or not you want stone accents as the builder has it available. You get to choose your flooring if that's not already been pre-selected. You get to choose the colors on the outside if it's not been pre-selected. You get to choose your cabinets, whether they're going to be white, gray, dark, light cherry. You get to decide that if it's not been pre-selected. A lot of times you get to choose your lighting package if it's not been pre-selected. Now, anything above the builder grade options, which is an upgrade, you pay the difference in the upgrade, right? And so what else is something you maybe can get your paint colors depending upon the price point and who the builder is, because let's say, God forbid, something happens to a buyer's loan and they picked all these wonky colors or very customized colors that were only specific to them. Now they can't resell that property without repainting because it was customized to the colors that that person wanted, right? Let me go to a brighter screen. I apologize. So that's why a lot of times you don't see the options to make a lot of choices in a pre-sale. So let's talk about a custom built home. So a custom built home is where you found your lot, or you found some lots that are available for sale either outside of a subdivision or within a subdivision. And it says custom build, bring your own builder, right? So that means that someone owns this specific lot. You decided you want to purchase the lot. You want to custom build. You want to design your home and your floor plan from the ground up. That is a custom built property. You get to decide how many rooms. You get to decide this, as if it's a ranch with a bonus, if it's a 2-story, is it a mansion? I want to move this wall. I want to shift this room. I want a split floor plan. I want a horse and carriage barn underneath the house, right? I want a basement. Depending on where you are, when it's custom built, you get to make every decision, every single decision about that property, where all the outlets are going to go on the wall, where the vents are going to go on the floor or the ceiling. Am I going to have smooth ceiling? Am I going to have a textured ceiling? And so when you're custom building something, you get to customize it to your own details. Now, the difference in financing between those two is with a pre-sale, you can use an existing loan. And what I mean by that is you can use FHA, you can use VA, you can use conventional, you can use USDA, because you're not buying the lot. You're just purchasing the pre-constructed, pre-designed, pre-built home that's going to go there or is already there. So it is already considered permanent financing. And so you can go ahead and insert your loan and build and buy that home, right? But when it's custom built, you have to do what's called a construction to perm loan. That means that you're going to have a construction loan that's going to fund the lot, that's going to fund the clearing of the lot, that's going to fund all the lot costs, like seeing that the land perks for this type of home and the size home you want to build. I will tell you about what that means in a second. Clearing the land, clearing the lot, how much it will cost to tap into the sewer lines, what would it cost to tap into the septic line, what would it cost to dig a well, what does the grading cost, that's to make the land flat. And so all of those things, when you are the developer, right, you are the builder. So think from that perspective. When you're custom building a home, when you're custom building a home, you basically are stepping into the position of the developer. And even though you're working with a builder, you're the one that's driving the train of its design. You know, you're the one driving the train of what's going to go in it. You're the one driving the train of what it's going to look like. Where not necessarily where it's going to sit, because a lot of times when you're custom building a home, there's still what we call a setback. There's still a certain place on the property that home has to sit and be situated as it relates to your septic lines or your sewer lines or the water lines or city zoning, county zoning. It's going to determine a lot of times where your home can sit on your lot. You're going to be responsible for pouring the driveway. You're going to be responsible for getting a mailbox. You're going to be responsible for paving the driveway in the event it's out in a rural area. All these decisions you get to make in a custom built home. And so with a construction to perm loan, what that means is you can only work with a specific lender, right? Unless you have a builder that's going to buy the lot in advance and wrap the funding in. We'll talk about that in a second. So when you're working with a specific lender, what they're going to do is say, okay, Nancy, here is how much you're pre-approved for. If you go and find a lot that's $50,000 and you're approved up to $250,000, you have $200,000 that you can use towards the purchase of the home. And from that, you're going to need to set aside about $5,000 as it relates to the land costs and what we call pre-construction costs, right? So now you're working with $195,000. And that is the amount that you have to build to customize this home. And so a lot of people get discouraged because they're like, that's not a lot of money. But it is expensive to build a home, because now you're stepping into the position of where that builder was when he was buying up the lots and he was putting down pre-sales and he was taking down 10 lots at a time. Now you're taking down one house, one lot, and you're building custom to your specs, right? And so a lot of custom home builders will only begin the custom building process at around $350,000, because anything less than that is going to be too expensive for them, too risky for them, and you're not really going to get a really big home, right? You're going to get a quality built home, but you're not going to really be able to get a large home for under $350,000 when you're doing a custom build, depending on how much the lot costs, okay? So the other thing is, a lot of times people will come to me and say, well, I want to custom build a home, and I found this company over here, and said company told me that if I find the lot, they can build a house. The tricky part about that is there are a lot of hidden fees and a lot of expenses when you go with a company. I don't want to name any names because I don't want to get in any trouble, right? But when you go with a company that says, you find the lot, we build the house, they don't tell you how much it's going to cost for the lot. They're not going to help you find the lot. They're not going to help you finance the lot, right? You have to buy it, deed it to them, and then they take that deed in their name and they build your house on it, right? They don't tell you how much it's going to cost to tap into the water line, what it's going to cost to tap into the sewer line. They don't talk to you about development costs and development fees, like the lot grading, the lot clearing, getting all the stumps out. Because just because you see a flat piece of land, I used to think this, just because you see a flat lot that says lot for sale, build your home here, you think, oh, I'll just go put my house on that. But you don't know what's under that soil, right? You don't know if there's rocks. You don't know if there's stumps. You don't know if there are roots, previous building material. And not only that, you have to have a perk test. And what the perk test is like, they call it that because back in the day they would dig a hole, they'd put water or a solution down in there, and when it bubbled up like a percolator, like a coffee pot, then it would say, oh, the land perks. That means that we can build a home here with a certain number of bedrooms and bathrooms. And so that is what the soil test will tell you when you're custom building a home. Can I put a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home on this lot? Can I put a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home on this lot? Can I put a 5 or 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom home on the lot? So when you're custom building, you have to have the expense of doing a soil test and a perk test to find out, can the size home you want to build go on that lot? And that is your expense. And these are your expenses that are up front. Your lot costs and your lot development costs, right? Or the lot clearing costs. Those are all the buyer's expense. So that's different from the pre-sale. That lot's already there. Only thing they're paying for now is the house on a pre-sale, because the cost of the lot is already wrapped into the house of the cost of the pre-sale. But when you're custom building, you have the lot development, lot expenses, lot clearing, and all of that, plus the cost of the home, plus any deposits or down payments that you're going to have to put down, which can be somewhere around 20% of a down payment that you give to the builder for him to start the process of custom building your home. But again, with the custom build, you get to decide where the walls go. You get to decide all your colors. You get to decide if you want a Eiffel Tower or Stonehenge, right? You get to decide all these things that you want for your home. What colors? Where is it going to be located? Can I have a split floor plan? Can I have an upstairs, downstairs? Can I have a ranch? And it costs more expensive to build a ranch home, which is a 1-level home, than it does to build a 2-story home. Why? Because when you want to go build a ranch home, you're building out, which means it's going to take more framing, more lumber, more materials to build out. Whereas if you're going to build up, you only have the lumber that's down here on the bottom, and then you can stack it on top of one another. It's cheaper to build up. And so I just wanted to share with you the difference between a pre-sale, which is a volume purchase, right? Everything's already pre-selected, already predetermined. There are not a lot of changes that can be made, versus a custom built home, which is a really great opportunity for you to make it your own. But you just have to know that there are things involved in making it your own, and there are hidden fees that you may or may not always know about. But if you reach out to me as a professional, this is my 12th year in real estate. owning Fusion Properties LLC. Since 2009, I've sold and I've worked with tons of custom build. I've done work with the land developer. I've sold subdivisions, which was just raw land. I've worked with commercial and residential, and so I'm an expert in the field. So if you're thinking about you may want to do a pre-sale, or you're thinking about you may want to build a custom built home, I would love to talk to you about that. And I'll help you weigh the pros and the cons, and you decide, right? I'm just here to walk you through the journey and to be an information source, help you make a wise decision and a good decision for you and your family. So again, I'm Garlinda Price with Fusion Properties LLC. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Fuse, where we're talking about all things pre-sale construction, purchasing or building a new home through a pre-sale, or building a brand new home, customized construction that you're building yourself through custom building. We have a great referral base of builders that are amazing. They are ready, willing, and able to serve you. One of my favorites is Kane Builders. They do an amazing job. And so let's talk. Again, I'm Garlinda Price at Fusion Properties. Talk to you soon.